We'll see. I hesitate to post the PowerPoint because that means you won't take any notes.
I promise I will take notes.
Well, I know. You probably will, but others will not. So yes, take notes. I typically do not post the PowerPoints. All right, well, welcome to Hitler and the Holocaust, in parentheses, history of modern Germany. We don't tell anybody it's history of the modern Germany because they wouldn't take the class, but everyone loves to hate Hitler. That's probably why you're here. Okay. So yes, please take notes. I recommend there's a little helpful thing there of what students should do to succeed under important files. You might want to read that. That comes from our provost. One of them is buy your book. Another one is read the book. Another one is take notes. Another one is, I guess, show up. Stuff like that. Basic stuff that probably we probably don't need to say, but I guess we do need to say. Well, this is Hitler and the Holocaust, and our main text is Orlo, the history of modern Germany. And we want to get started then today by looking at the very beginnings. If we want to understand what is going on in Germany at this time, we need to take a look at, we need to back up a little bit. I want to jump in 1939. We need to back up about 40, 50 years to see what's going on in Germany at the time. Germany at the beginning of the 19th century doesn't look anything, well, doesn't look much like Germany that we're going to see, say, in 1870, 1890, certainly 1930. Germany was fragmented. That's the best way I can put it. Germany was fragmented in the late 19th century, early to late 19th century. For example, at the time, you might remember this from maybe another class you had with me, at the time of the Reformation, Germany consisted of over 300 principalities. Small, very tiny principalities, smaller than Polk County here in beautiful, we call this Central Florida? I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to know, why is the University of South Florida in Central Florida? Why isn't it the University of Central Florida? Anyway, that's just questions I have that no one can answer. Because I thought I was in Central Florida, then I just drive, like a half an hour away. I don't go any further south. I actually go a little bit north, and I'm at the University of South Florida. Well, anyway. These are mysteries for which I don't require an answer. Well, we are here in beautiful Central Florida, in beautiful Polk County, and you would find complete states, with a duke or whatever of Germany. It would be much smaller than this county. And there's over 300 of them. And those make up what today we would call Germany, but they're really individual states. That's what you have to keep in mind. And because of that, because Germany is fragmented, and its neighbors, its enemies, people like France and others do not want Germany to be unified. It's not in their best interest that Germany be unified. France does not want a strong, unified Germany. The Holy Roman Emperor doesn't want a strong, unified Germany, etc. And so Germany stays this way. And Germany was the last of the European powers, great powers of Europe, to be unified. And that will not happen until 1871. Why? Well, notice we list there political, diplomatic, geographic. I think we'll have that next as geography. But all of these factors led to Germany not being unified. All right? So let's take a look at the geography then. There are no real physical barriers. If you take a look, say, at the United States today, we go from sea to shining sea now. We didn't originally, but we do now, right? We have the Atlantic on one side, the Pacific on the other. Those are distinct boundaries. I think everyone would agree. Then, of course, we have a long, unprotected border with our enemy to the north, Canada. Beware the Canadians. I don't trust them. I want to build a wall with Canada and make them pay for it. Canada, my friends. They've been infiltrating us for years. You know their money is the same size as ours. Why? So they can come down and put their coins in our vending machines and wreck our economy. No reason their coins should be the same size. They do it on purpose. They send their people down, and they take over our jobs. Like Alex Trebek, Canadian. Howie Mandel, Canadian. Yeah, well, the list could go on. We can't. Justin Bieber, need I say anymore? Michael J. Fox, yes. So they come and they take our jobs, they corrupt us, and watch out the Canadians. Well, and then to the south, of course, our friends to the south, Mexico, we have a long border with them. So the question then is, we define those borders, and we don't have time to talk about it here in the United States. And then, of course, we would have to somehow control, defend, or whatever those borders. Germany doesn't have nice, neat borders. They have the North Sea partially in the north, but in the south, they don't really go all the way to the Alps. And of course, with France, there's not a real solid border there as well. So it makes it easy to travel to Germany. It also makes it easy to invade Germany. And Germany had been invaded. We don't think about Germany being invaded. But in the 19th century, the 18th century, Germany was invaded several times. Exhibit A, the 30 Years' War. Right? Exhibit B, Napoleon. Okay? The list could go on. Now, they do have some major rivers. The Rhine, the Danube, probably being the most prevalent. They dissect a plain, but they are not that good as a border, but they're good for trade. All right. So Germany, before unification then, Germany had a political structure of these hundreds of little principalities. Were sort of bound together in a rather loose confederation of independent states. There is no strong central government. The constitution of the Confederation of Germany is rather weak as far as any kind of central power. And until 1806, Germany had more than 300 small and some larger states. It also had been affiliated with the Holy Roman Empire. That's what it's called in the past, but they formed their own Holy Roman Empire of the German nation. Now, we said 1806. What happens in 1806? Those of you who are, a lot of you are history, almost everyone in here is a history major. A few are not. We welcome you, non-history majors. We seek to evangelize you. We do not have a hidden agenda in that. We want to convert you to the true way of life, and that's being a history major. Well, we don't want to get too yes, but not. We don't want to be too overt. But yes, let's just call it disciplinary evangelism. Anyway, we welcome you. Okay, in 1806, what happens in the area we would call Germany today? Big event. Napoleon, yes, very good. Our buddy Napoleon, the guy with a hand in his shirt, the short guy with a funny hat, Napoleon. Someday I'll do a class about him. I don't know when. I'll do one called French Revolution and the Age of Napoleon. Well, somebody's taking that this semester, sort of. Okay, but we'll do that later. But yes, our buddy Napoleon comes in and takes over Germany, Deutschland, the fatherland, we call it, right? Vaterland. and he rearranges the boundaries. This will eliminate some of those small principalities, although not all of them. I think I have a map in a moment which will show what Germany looks like at about this time, right after Napoleon. We have the Congress of Vienna, 1814 to 1815. Here, great powers will meet to try to decide what will come of Europe after our buddy Napoleon is gone. Now, of course, he kind of throws him a curveball and comes back again for 100 days, but that's a whole other story. They eventually sent him off to an island out into the middle of the Atlantic, South Atlantic, between Brazil and Africa, and he will die there, sadly, unfortunately, or happily, depending on your point of view, in a malaria-infested rock in Atlantic. Well, maybe that's what he gets for escaping from the first island. Right? I want to make sure he's not going to escape from that one. Anyway, they decide what's going to become. We're not going to leave it all to the French. Definitely not going to give it to the French. What's going to happen to the land? So they redraw a bunch of lines. They create a bunch of countries or entities. They try to go back to the way things were before Napoleon, which is in some cases impossible. The result then, after 1806, is that there was a German confederation composed of 39 principalities and free cities. 39. Now, most of these are very small. There were 5 of them, we might say, that had enough size and clout to be mentioned as, kind of on their own. Yes? Question? No, no question. All right. Yes?
Will these PowerPoints be on my file?
We will see. Popular request seems to want them to be there, so perhaps I'll do that. Yeah. The only reason I hesitate to put PowerPoints on my file is I think no one would come to class and pay attention and take notes. Here's my advice to you. Whether you've got all the PowerPoints or not, you should take notes. Taking notes is the best way to retain the information. Why? The information goes, when I'm talking, it's going in these things, these holes in your head called your ears. And you got your eyeballs, you're looking at the PowerPoint, and that's probably about it. But if you're writing, your brain, this stuff up here in your head, has to engage with what I'm saying and what you're seeing and has to sort of interpret it and write it down. And you're doing it at that time. And that is a process, I guarantee you, which is necessary if you want to retain the information, learn the information. Well, anyway, there they are. Bavaria, Prussia, Austria. That's before the unification. Now, I want to put a map up here next. So I know people. Yes, go ahead.
So those 5 states what were they? Just independent.
Well, these are just the larger of the 39.
So Austria becomes separate.
It will, yeah, it will. But at one time, it was part of
That German.
Yes, and that's going to be an issue that, if we have enough time, we'll get to later in this hour. Is that Austria and Prussia are going to be the ones who are going to fight over who will control the destiny of Germany, and it will be Prussia. Spoiler alert: Prussia will win. By the way, the guy was dead the whole movie. Spoiler alert. People always tell you the spoiler alert after they've already told you the spoiler alert, so then it's too late, you already know. Right? That dude was really a woman the whole movie. Spoiler alert. Okay. Yeah, see? I just wrecked the movie for you. Okay. Germany after the Congress of Vienna. Congress of Vienna, again, is just a big meeting that lasts for a couple of years, on and off, deciding what's going to happen in Europe. And what do they decide? We'll take a look at this hodgepodge map of Germany. The big part there is Prussia. That's in the blue. You see that? And then down there in the green is Austria. Those are our 2 big players. Austria green, And by the way, by this point, they have incorporated Hungary into their territory, although Hungary is not a Germanic nation. I mean, the people there don't speak German and so forth. Then you see, for example, the Netherlands, which are not a part of this. And you see that brown part up at the top, the brown part up here, of this peninsula that is Denmark, and of course the important Schleswig-Holstein, which is this area down in here. That's going to become important if and when we ever get to the German Wars of Unification, which I hope are coming soon. We don't run out of time. Otherwise, I guess you'll have to look at it on PowerPoint and make it out for yourself. Anyway, just keep that in mind. And then look at all the other little small ones. Colors we can't even, I don't even want to try to identify. Okay. Revolution then. There's a lot of upheaval in Europe. Again, this is just a thumbnail sketch of 19th century European history. That's all it's intended to be. Sort of set the stage. But there was a lot of upheaval after the Napoleonic period and after the Congress of Vienna. What had happened was, Napoleon had a revolution. They had a revolution in France. And eventually this leads to Napoleon. And so many people across Europe wanted to avoid having a revolution again. So they really made everything, they imposed laws and rules that would try to make stability for the people of Europe. But people react to it, especially the peasants, especially those who were poorer. They were sort of being left out of this equation. They had gotten some information, some liberties, I guess you might say, after the French Revolution, and now they're being taken away. In 1848, 1849, there was a series of uprisings across Europe. Some of them wanted to form independent nations, with a constitution, perhaps set up on a democratic or perhaps a constitutional monarchy or something. They wanted a different kind of government, and it seemed like a dream they could get. However, this was squashed. How's that? Smashed. It was crushed with a lot of force, and these revolutions were put down in part because they were not well organized. They were not, in other words, there were revolutions going on all over the place, but they weren't sort of coordinated. So it was easier to put them down. And the princes then and the allies returned to power, and they do so with even more force because they want to avoid what had happened before. It's during this time then we see a real division, and this division I think had been there before. This isn't the first time, but we do see the division between the northern part of Germany and the southern part of Germany. There's a lot of divisions and a lot of differences between northern Germany and southern Germany. One, for example, is religious. Northern Germany is primarily Lutherans. They're Protestants. Southern Germany are primarily Roman Catholic. That's just one. Even the German that they speak, they understand each other, but there's a distinctive dialect or accent if you're in the north or if you're in the south. That's another. Okay? There are several things there. All right, now we want to enter the picture the man of the week, your friend and mine, well, maybe, Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck. And remember, your assignment this week deals with Otto von Bismarck. A biography that was written of Otto von Bismarck will be a video assignment. Please listen to that interview with the author. It's about 55 minutes or something. There is a book review of his book that was written by Henry Kissinger. You may or may not have ever heard of him. If you haven't, you should have. And then there's a little video interview on that link with Henry Kissinger. Okay, and that's about 10 minutes. So you watch about an hour and 5 minutes of video, and you read a book review, which is about 2 to 3 pages long. This will get you a little introduction into Bismarck and his techniques. He said that he would unify Germany with iron and with blood. He would use force. He was willing to have people die to unify Germany. He was born in 1815. He came from a Pomeranian, you know them, little doggies. I'm not suggesting Otto von Bismarck was a canine. However, he comes from the same region as those furball dogs. Always remind me of kind of a thing you would use to dust your house. If you could spray your Pomeranian with end dust and let them run around the house, then give them a bath, I think you will have accomplished a lot. Anyway, it's sort of the ancient style Roomba, the automatic vacuum cleaner. Anybody here have a Roomba? I don't have a Roomba. It's a little thing that goes around your house and vacuums. In fact, the professor I studied with at Miami University, his son helped develop the Roomba, as well as lots of it. He's chief roboticist with iRobot, and he lives in Boston. Went to MIT. He's done a lot of stuff, where they go in and dismantle bombs. They send a robot in to take pictures of it and cut wires and stuff. It's the kind of stuff he's worked on. Brian Yamauchi, that's his name. Look him up. I'm sure you've Googled him already. You all know. You guys probably have those Google things mounted right into your eyeballs. Instead of, not the Google glasses. Those didn't go over. But they call it the Google eyeball. It'll be coming. Contact lenses. You just put them in. You can access your Facebook at all times and update it. Yeah, those go around. I shouldn't have just told you that, because that was my idea. That's my big idea. I want to make interactive screens that the dilation of your eyes and your contact lenses. It would be great when you're driving.
What if the contacts explode in your eye?
Well, that's just the price you'll have to pay for technology. For Facebook, yeah, for tweeting. You guys know that there's talks they're going to merge Facebook and Twitter. They're going to call it TwitFace. Okay. That's not real, no. That's fake news. Yes. Who did?
I heard that Twitter, Facebook is probably
Oh yeah.
making so much money, but Twitter's never.
No. Twitter's on its way out.
Is it really?
It is. I mean, it's in trouble. Donald Trump will save it. Don't worry. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make Twitter great again.
Yeah, make Twitter great again. I'm going to reactivate my Twitter account just so I can follow the Donald. Okay. He was born and now he's a Junker. That's a Junker family, not a Junker family. You see that? And yeah, we're actually back to the PowerPoints now. I know it's hard to believe. I got to see what time it is here. We don't have much time left. All right, I got to keep moving. Junkers are the nobility. Let's just leave it at that. So let's move on from that. Now, what he is going to do is he's going to be asked by Kaiser Wilhelm I, who at this time was not Kaiser Wilhelm I. He was King Wilhelm of Prussia, to become his prime minister. And basically what Bismarck will come up with, I'm going to summarize here, is he will come up with a policy of using wars to unify Germany. By the way, wars can unify people, believe it or not. Having a common enemy is the easiest way to unify people. So you come into this class, maybe you don't even know each other that well, but you leave here with a common enemy, me, and it unifies you. You see, you're now the Hitler class, and you have a common enemy, a common goal, and it has unified you in this way. See, and once the class is over, those bonds will break, because my enemy's enemy is my friend. Once my enemy is gone, then my enemy's enemy isn't as important to me anymore. What's that? Cold War. Yeah, the Cold War's back now. Recently, the Obama administration has brought it back. You thought it was gone, but it's back.
And he's ready to start World War III as well.
Oh, World War III. Yes, it could happen. Well, anyway, he's going to use 3 wars. Where are they? There they are. He's going to use a war against Schleswig-Holstein. That's that area up there by the peninsula. He's going to use a war against the Austrians, and then he will use a war against France. Okay, so if you read your textbook, you'll have a lot of this stuff in there. But again, I feel as though time is slipping away. I have 11 minutes left. So let me move forward. Yeah, I know. Here is the war against Denmark. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, it has too much text on it. I just want you to get the main things, but I know everyone wants to write every word down there, which I understand. Yeah, I'll put some of this up for you.
Well, most of what you put up today will be online, right?
Yes. Yes. So war number 1 is Denmark. You know, those terrible Danes to the north. 1863. They'll fight over Schleswig und Holstein. Schleswig und Holstein were territories that spoke German. However, they were under the tyranny of the Danes. So the idea here is that we will fight a war to liberate our good German-speaking friends of Schleswig und Holstein so that they can join the Vaterland with the rest of us. Yeah? Sehr gut. Yes. Ja, jawohl. I took German in college, actually. I was taught German by 2 different German guys, professors, I should say, who actually were in Germany during World War II. One of them in Berlin. The other was from areas closer to France. Herr Petersen und Herr Must. Yeah, it's very interesting. Wish I had more time for stories about them, especially Herr Must. But Herr Must was a guy who worked in World War II. He was a part of the black market in Berlin during the war. He was always very concerned that a couple of things were his pet peeves. One pet peeve was students driving their cars. He thought Americans drove their cars too much. You should walk or ride a bicycle to class. So if you wanted to get him going, you could say, Herr Must, Professor Must, I saw, Herr Schmidt driving his car to class. Oh, Studenten, you Americans, you drive everywhere. You should walk. Ride a bicycle. It's good for you. Well, he didn't say that. And the other thing he didn't like was people smoking cigarettes. Yes. So you'd say you saw Herr Schmidt smoking a cigarette, and then he would talk about how terrible cigarettes were. Und Studenten, these cigarettes, they're terrible for you. And so forth.
What about beer?
He didn't mention that. He's German, so he's not going to be anti-beer. Anyway, I remember one day in class, after he had done this thing about the cigarettes, one of the students who had him in class longer than I had, I didn't say this kind of stuff, of course. I was always very nice in class. He said, Herr Must, during the war, when you were dealing with the black market, did you ever sell cigarettes? And Herr Must stopped, and he put his head down, and he shook his head, and he said, Studenten, war is a terrible thing. So, remember that. So this is the first war against Denmark. The second war is against Austria, the Austro-Prussian War of 1866. Over the next 2 years, the two sides went back and forth fighting, and finally we had the big war. It's actually called the 7 Weeks' War. Don't have it down here, but it should be down here. The 7 Weeks' War is a war that lasts, fortunately, 7 weeks. Not all wars named that last the same. 100 Years' War lasts longer than 100 years. But anyway, 7 Weeks' War does last 7 weeks. And at the end of it, the Austrians are defeated. So what do the Germans do? What do the Prussians do? When they defeat Denmark, they don't take over all of Denmark. They liberate Schleswig-Holstein. When they defeat Austria, do they take over Austria? No, they do not. It just basically shows all the other German states, if you want to be on the side of the winner, you better be with the Prussians, not the Austrians. And this kind of isolates the Austrians then, until later when a guy named Adolf is born there. Okay. And then thirdly, since we now have, how much time? 6 minutes, but who's watching the clock? I know you are. The Franco Prussian War. The Franco Prussian War, Bismarck uses these wars to achieve what he wants, and that is to unify Germany under Prussia. They tried to use diplomatic pressure on France. However, we're going to see that the Franco-Prussian War will begin actually when France declares war on Germany. Why? Because they felt that the Prussians were getting too powerful. And in fact, a relative of Kaiser Wilhelm I was up to sort of take over the throne or the rule of Spain, and the French didn't like this idea. You'd have one guy here and like his cousin down here, and that didn't sound good to them. And so Bismarck actually edits a telegram, the Ems telegram. Okay, that's very important. Again, not mentioned a lot here. We're going to probably not have time to go through all of these PowerPoints screens. But the Ems diagram will basically be edited by Bismarck to be very threatening. It's a telegram sent by Kaiser Wilhelm I to the French, where the French were saying, you need to guarantee us that your relative will not take control of Spain and never will. And basically the king writes, I can't control what all my relatives do. Bismarck edits it to make it very threatening, and in response, the French declare war on Germany. This is the best of all worlds for Bismarck, because he didn't even have to declare the war. The French declared war on us. And it's never too hard to get the Germans roused up against the French, especially after Napoleon. And so they go in very short order, they defeat the French. They march into Paris. They take over. And what do? Do they take over and control France after that? No. They take one very small territory, Alsace and Lorraine, which had been basically taken from them earlier, they would say, by Napoleon, after the aftermath of the Treaty of the Congress of Vienna, that had been given to France, and they took it back. So basically, at the end of this, they're not really conquering territory, so to speak. They are incorporating German-speaking territory into their control and unifying all these 39, well, except for the Austrians, 38 German states will then come under one ruler, Kaiser Wilhelm I. He will now be a Kaiser. That name comes all the way back from the word Caesar. Kaiser. Just like Tsar. Tsar comes from the word Caesar. So he is the emperor of Germany. Not just the king of Prussia, but now the emperor of Germany. I'm going to skip this one here. Germany is then unified in 1871. A ceremony is held. The Palace of Versailles and the Hall of Mirrors. A beautiful place to visit if you ever get a chance. I recommend it. We were supposed to be going there over spring break, but that trip was canceled, unfortunately. It got moved to May, and then it got canceled. Yeah. Didn't have enough people sign up in time. It's a complicated problem. But anyway, we'll try again next year for something. If you have ideas, let me know. But Germany becomes unified. I was trying to put Germany and unified together into unified, unity, Germany, unity. Well, anyway, that's kind of like Benifer or something like that. The ceremony then, January the 18th, and now you see beautiful yellow. We incorporate Bavaria to the south. Silesia, that's important later for World War I and II. And we start to see then, let me move past this, we are now unified. So we have then, once he has unified things politically, yes?
What is the Hall of Mirrors?
The Hall of Mirrors, it should just be the Hall of Mirrors. The Hall of Mirrors is a room in the Palace of Versailles. It's basically a hallway between the king's bedroom, boudoir, and the queen's boudoir. But it's a huge, I mean, it's wider than this room, and it has mirrors on both sides, so they call it the Hall of Mirrors. And it was the scene of this unification of Germany. It's going to be the scene at the end of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles will be signed in the Hall of Mirrors as well. Well, Bismarck, to make a long story short, will now begin a cultural change to change all these. I'll put these things up for you. Bismarck's mad. And he wants to change the culture of Germany. And let me move forward. Yeah, we got little quotes. Lots of laws are passed. Let's pass that up. Lots of social development. How much time do we have? We're out of time. Let me go to this then. I got to go to my last one. Who has the better facial hair? Kaiser Wilhelm II or Bismarck? You decide. Well, that's my vote. So this week then, look over Bismarck. I'll post these on what you call my fire. And next time we meet, which is a week from today, we're going to have 2 presentations. All right. We'll see you then.
How long is the presentation need to be?
It should be about 10, 12 minutes.
Just like the presentation we did last.
Yeah, 10 to 12 minutes long with, like 8 to 10 screens and a handout. All right?
So are we not meeting on Monday?
Monday, nobody's meeting because it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Wednesday is the Greek class, and Friday is us. So we got a weird start because of all these days off. All right, we'll see you then.
We usually do meet on Monday, though, right?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, check the schedule on my fire.